Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Press for Truth. I'm your host, Dan Dix, and today we have a really special show lined up for you. We're going to be talking with the one and only Jeff Berwick of the DollarVigilante.com. He's also the host of the Anarcho-Cast, a very popular online webcast, and he can now add politician to the long list of growing credentials. So, Jeff, man, thanks so much for taking some time to join us once again here on Press for Truth.
Oh, thanks, Dan. I don't know if politician is a credential or something good, but I'm trying to see if I can find a way to affect some more liberty and change via the political system, yes. True.
That's not necessarily something you want to add on there as something to strive for, but in that regards, though, I do have to ask you, for my first question, how did you first become a politician?
Well, I became a politician starting yesterday, so it hasn't been very long. Essentially what happened was, as you know, I'm an anarcho-capitalist, which is essentially what the libertarian is the most extreme form of a libertarian is someone who is an anarcho-capitalist or anarchist. And I've been very popular, very famous around the world, spreading views about how government is evil, and not even just evil, but an unnecessary evil. And I've started talking to some other very well-known libertarians like Walter Block, Mr. Libertarian, who I know you know quite well. And he really convinced me that we should get involved in the political system to spread the ideas of liberty more because, and he used the example of Ron Paul, and I think that's an excellent example of a person who is essentially an anarchist. Ron Paul has essentially said he is an anarchist. He has never really said the exact words, but everything he said around it, he sounds like he believes in that everyone should be responsible for themselves and govern themselves. And not have someone violently govern them. And so I talked to Walter Block, and he really convinced me that it's an excellent way to get out these messages. As you know, and you also have worked with Tim Moen, the leader of the Libertarian Party of Canada, that it's an excellent way to get these messages out. And of course, one of the things that we always hear, especially as libertarians or anarchists, is that we're always talking to ourselves, and we're always almost fighting amongst ourselves, and we're not really getting our message out there. And I've given that a lot of thought over the years, and it appears if you really want to get the message out there to people who haven't heard this message, an excellent way is through the political system, because of course the people that we want to hear this message are statists, people who believe that they need a violent government to rule them. And so when they give us the actual avenue for us to talk to them, and that they respect us a lot more when we go into their systems to talk to them, because they obviously, being statists, they like the political system for whatever reason. I don't know how anyone could like the political system. There's nothing but just liars and thieves and chaos and horrible things happen in that system. But they do like it for whatever reason. They still have some hope that that's a way that they can free themselves, is by continuing to be owned by the government. And so they give you the soapbox. And the Libertarian Party of Canada now, thanks to Tim Moen and many others, has been growing tremendously. And of course, libertarianism as an ideology has been growing tremendously, mostly thanks to Ron Paul in the last few election cycles in the U.S. So I think it's an excellent avenue, and I'm willing to enter into this dirty cesspool of politics just to see if I can try to use that venue to tell people the truth, which is that they will be much better off without any sort of government, but at the very least, they'd be much better off with much less government. And that's really the message that I want to try to portray to those people, because they don't hear that message. All they get continually is left-right. It's, well, we tried the left, and, well, that didn't work. Well, next time we'll try the right, and that didn't work, and, well, next time we'll try the left. That's what just happened in Alberta, of course, with electing almost an entirely communist government all of a sudden. People are just giving up. They just don't, they've tried everything and nothing seems to work. The one thing they haven't tried is libertarianism, and that's the only thing that will work. So I'm trying to expose them to it through their own system right now.
Well, let's bring people up to speed on what exactly it was that you announced yesterday. I mean, you're running for candidacy in the Vancouver riding for the Libertarian Party. Why Vancouver? And what would you say to those people who would suggest that this is almost like an oxymoron? I mean, how does an anarchist run for government?
Yeah, well, first of all, as far as the riding goes, I spent a lot of time in Vancouver. I started, I had the largest internet company in Canada for many years in the 1990s, and it's still the top financial website in Canada called stockhouse.com, and I started that and ran it out of Vancouver for almost 10 years. So I had 240 employees there. I was very well known in the city. That's essentially, I was born in Edmonton, but I left there when I was 21. So really my Canadian part of my adult life was all in Vancouver, so that's why Vancouver was chosen. And as far as how can an anarchist run for government, there's absolutely nothing that says an anarchist can't run for government if his intentions are to try to bring about anarchy through that sort of a thing. And when I say anarchy, for people who don't know what anarchy is, essentially it's self-rule and trying to get less and less government until actually we have more and more governments. This is sort of the oxymoron about it, is a real anarchist wants more governments, but he wants decentralized. So, for example, I'd be in favor of every province in Canada being its own sort of sovereign state, and I'd be in favor of every city in Canada being its own sovereign state. And I'd love to see eventually all throughout the world 7 billion governments. So that's the essential sort of thing that a person who believes in anarchy would want, is a much more government. So he'd want to see the worst thing for an anarchist to see is a one world government. So one government that rules the whole world and is a totally centralized government. Really what we're talking about is decentralization, and that's a big part of the Libertarian Party of Canada's platform, is decentralization of things. They want to give a lot of the power back to provinces, which I support, because that will create a lot more freedom. The smaller the governments are, the better. And the bigger the governments are, the worse. And that's been proven all throughout history, every time, including in the U.S. now with the U.S. empire. It's getting incredibly bad in the U.S. because it's such a giant government now.
Mm-hmm. Well, it seems to come down to, as you suggested, like the sovereignty of the individual, I think is of the utmost importance as well. And when we have people like Ron Paul and people like Tim Moen, and now people like yourself putting themselves on that stage and getting out there, I mean, is that what it's going to take to be able to get this message out there? I mean, the platform is there. Is it really just using it as a vehicle for us to spread our message?
Yeah, that's after years of thinking about it, I think libertarians and anarchists have really missed probably the best opportunity they have to actually get their message out there, and that is through the political system. Ron Paul showed that completely. Not 10 years ago, I bet your average American never even heard the word libertarianism. Now it's almost a common word in the U.S., and it's mostly because of Ron Paul. So he got involved in that system to spread the ideas of liberty, which no one ever hears because they try to keep you trapped in that left-right paradigm. The mainstream media, television programming at night, and it's called programming for a reason, never really brings this stuff up, or if they do, they say that it sounds really dangerous, sounds crazy what we're talking about. All we're talking about is reducing a giant government and giving people more sovereignty over their own lives, and by whatever means that is available. And so by, like I said, by decentralizing government would be much better. So yeah, it's a real, we'll find out, or I'll find out personally in the next 6 months if this really works or not. And it's sort of a bit of an experiment. So this really hasn't been done really in Canada before. There's been the Libertarian Party has been around for 30 or 40 years, but they've really never been very big at all. It's been a couple people from what I can tell. And for whatever reason, since Tim Moen's come in, there seems to be just a coalescing of a lot of libertarians in Canada, and it looks like it's going to turn into what you would call like a real party, a real political party in this upcoming election. And I think that's great. I think the more that there's libertarians on every stage, in every debate, on every interview in the mainstream media, the better, because our ideas are actually the ideas that will help people and get them out of this cycle of just going back and forth between left and right, and things just keep getting worse and worse, as we see with the Bill C-51 now in Canada. These are all, it's not getting better because people don't realize that they have to start to become more libertarian and get outside of the government system. Government actually has no ability to make life better for society as a whole. It's just not possible to do. All they can do is make it worse, and the best governments are the ones who make it the least worse. That's essentially as good as it gets for government. It's just not possible for a government to improve anything. A government produces nothing. It so it's not creating anything. It's actually just taking money from the people who live in that area, centralizing it, mostly spending it and giving it out to their friends, and then putting a little bit back into the economy and asking people to thank them for it. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm. So then what's the next steps for you to try to wake people up to these issues and going forth with your campaign? I've been told recently you've put out a bit of a call out to some libertarian-minded people in Canada. So what are your hopes, to see in the next few weeks and even in the next few months?
Well, it was Walter Block who brought up the idea that we should there's a lot of Canadian libertarians out there, and you're one of them at Press for Truth. And then there's James Corbett of the Corbett Report. Wendy McElroy is one of the most well-known libertarian women in the entire movement. Stefan Molyneux, of course, of Free Domain Radio. He's got a massive audience. He's an anarcho-capitalist or a libertarian, and many others, including yourself. And so I was saying that we should all just run under the Libertarian Party of Canada, just because if for no other reason, then it would make a big splash. You've got a large audience. You've got millions of views on YouTube. James Corbett's got a massive audience. Stefan Molyneux is an even bigger one. He's got hundreds of millions of views on YouTube. If all of us ran, it would actually create a buzz. There'd be like, what's going on? All of these guys who are very well known and have a big audience and quite well spoken and quite intelligent are all running for the Libertarian Party of Canada. So it would actually make people sit up and take notice. There would definitely be a buzz that would go through not only the libertarian community, but throughout the entire, all of Canada and even around the world, as people say, whoa, all these guys who've been talking about how government is bad are all running for the Canadian government. What's going on? And then people will start asking questions, and they'll find out that what we're trying to do is reduce the government as much as possible via the political system. And if all of us did that, and we also tried to tell our viewers who live in Canada, if they're also libertarian, to run for the Libertarian Party of Canada, we could actually fill up all 300 plus ridings with a libertarian candidate, which alone would get the attention of the media and the people in Canada of this political party that came out of nowhere, and all of a sudden everyone's talking about it, and it's got a candidate in every riding. Mm-hmm. And so I think that could be huge to get exposure for the ideas of liberty, because the first question everyone's going to ask is, what is libertarianism? And that's a good question to ask, and we have the answers to that. Mm-hmm. And we know how to tell them in a way that hopefully many people will understand it's actually the best way for people to live. So yes, I called you out on that, Dan, and so I'll call you out on your own program right here. Will you run for the Libertarian Party of Canada?
Well, when you came to me with this idea a couple of weeks ago, I was obviously intrigued. It's a lot to take on, a lot to think about. Now, as you've suggested, it's never really been done before. I mean, in a lot of ways, we're kind of trailblazers, not to toot our own horn, but we can't really go by what people have done before us, and we really can only go by our instincts. And my instincts for me were telling me that this is just not necessarily the path that I've been led down, and all I can do is go by my instincts. And one thing I do know is that in order for this to be successful, and I commend you guys for doing it, I do think this is a good thing. In order for this to be successful, you're going to need a platform to be able to get this information out there. I mean, we're going up against the government, and they have the mainstream media in their back pocket. So you guys are going to need a platform, and I just feel that, that's where I come in. I want to focus my energy on creating the platform for people like yourself who want to put themselves in that position to give you that voice and to be able to spread the message across Canada. So, I just feel that my instincts have been telling me to, focus on building the platform for you guys. But I have all the support for you, and I congratulate you and commend you for everything, taking that step and putting yourself out there.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and thank you for your support. I hope you consider it a bit further, because I think, and I'm talking right now to Walter Block and James Corbett and all these people, just trying to get them just to do it. It's really not that hard. There's not a lot involved in it. And what it would do, as I mentioned, is it would make people take notice, is, whoa, all of these people that I usually watch or listen to or read on the internet and really respect, so they're all running for the Libertarian Party of Canada. So make people really wake up a little bit, or at least least look at what we're doing and consider it. But if you don't run, and I hope you do still decide to run, I hope you still consider this, because I think it would add value to what we're trying to do. If you don't, hopefully your viewership out there, and I know you have a large viewership in Canada. I know they're not all libertarians, I don't believe. I'm sure they're not all libertarians, but I'm sure there is quite a few who are libertarian. For your viewership, if we could just get them to, you just go to the libertarian.ca website and you just click on, I believe it's candidates, and you'll get a list of the candidates and you can see if anyone's in your area. And if they're not, there's a form at the bottom, and it's very simple, and you just input on the form that you are interested in running in your area. If we can get 300 of these and spread them out all throughout Canada, this will create a lot of buzz, because this party, I don't know what the most they've ever run before, but I don't think it's been more than a dozen or two, and they've been very small before. So people are looking for something right now. You can see that in Alberta with how they, like I said, they elected a bunch of 20-year-old university kids who are all communist in Alberta of all places. So people are just grasping for straws because they know the rights, the conservatives aren't good. They know the liberals aren't good. So in Alberta, they're like, well, is there any other options? And at that time, there was the NDP, which are essentially almost communist. Right. And they said, oh, well, let's try that. So if they're willing to try communism in Alberta, they should be willing to try libertarianism once they find out what it is. So we got to get that out there as much as possible and really create a buzz right now in the coming months. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I'm certainly not going to completely close off the possibility. I mean, I'm going to continue to follow my gut and follow my instincts, and if I see that this is something that I feel I should be a part of, certainly I'll jump on board with you guys. I'm not going to completely count it out, but at this point in time, I'll continue to follow my gut and support you as much as I can. And for other people who also want to support you and get involved and maybe join, what are the links? Where do they go to learn more about what you've just recently announced, and where do they go to sign up?
Yeah, if they want to, I have a Facebook page. We just started yesterday, so I don't have a ton of websites or anything, and I don't know if I even will. But if you go on Facebook, you just go to facebook.com/Vote Berwick. But other than that, just go to the Libertarian website, libertarian.ca. Mm-hmm. And as I mentioned, they have the platform on there. Read through the platform. It's very small. It's nothing too large. Essentially just talking about ending the war on drugs, which of course I'm sure you're a 100% supporter of, Dan. Mm-hmm. The turning over the healthcare system to the provinces. So like I said, just decentralizing things. All sorts of just essentially trying to decentralize the federal government, which will create a lot of positive things for the Canadian economy and for Canadian people. So those are the two main areas to go to. You can donate, just so people know, this is a very small party. It just almost came out of nowhere all of a sudden. And they have no money, absolutely $0. And the Liberals and the Conservatives have literally millions and millions of dollars, because that's all the companies and all the big corporations, they all pay off those, both of them actually, the Conservatives and the Liberals, so that whoever gets in, they'll listen to them and pass laws that will make things better for them, which actually makes things worse for everyone else. So we're fighting against a massive system here. But and Tim Moan just quit his job. I believe he was a firefighter in Alberta. And he quit to do this full time, and he doesn't know how long he can really last without any money. So there's definitely, if you would like to, there's a donate section on the libertarian.ca website. That's another way you can help if you don't want to run, if you don't want to do anything else. If you feel like you like what they're trying to do or what we're trying to do, if you want to donate some money, it's actually tax deductible as well, which is nice. Anything that keeps money out of the hands of government, I'm a big supporter of. Mm-hmm. So yeah, those are the main ways. And another place that I talk a lot about this stuff is on the Dollar Vigilante, which is a website I've been doing for about 5 years. It's just dollarvigilante.com, and I wrote about this yesterday that I was running for it. And so that's we've got a free blog right on the front page of the website. You just sign up with your email, and you'll get our emails every day.
Well, man, it's exciting time, man, with all this going on, and I'm absolutely stoked to see that you've taken it to that next level. So it's going to be interesting to see what comes of this. I'm going to be tracking this and following it very closely. Once again, thank you for the time today, man, and keep up the great work. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. You too, Dan.
Peace.
Peace.